The definitions discussed so far are formed in single sentences, but they are just brief definitions. However, definitions can be extended into a paragraph, which we will call definition paragraph. It basically explains what something is and also gives facts, details, and examples to make the definition much clearer to the reader. A definition paragraph is essentially a definition sentence which has been extended into a paragraph by adding special meanings, description, narration, and or other kinds of paragraph development in order to clarify the term being defined. So that's something to keep in mind as we proceed with definition paragraphs. Here are some ways for us to develop the definition paragraph. All right. So I have here some tips on how to improve your introduction, then the body, and also the conclusion. Notice that these particular tips I'm giving are quite similar already with what we have been discussing in the recent paragraph developments. Now, let's talk about the introduction. You can basically introduce a formal definition or write a topic sentence that mentions the elements that you will define and be sure to provide three key defining words or phrases, wherein you will probably be exploring informal definitions. For the body, take note that you have to identify the things that make the term easy to recognize. So think of like some set of operational definitions. Try to compare the definition you have with similar ideas and recognize certain synonyms, and also try to show a negative explanation. Try to also explore connotations so that you may be able to add in some paragraph development into your definition paragraph or other types of paragraph development into your definition paragraph. Of course, for each of the above mentioned, from letter C to letter F, be able to give examples and specific explanations so that your reader will be able to clearly understand your point. Then, finally, for the conclusion, you can basically close the paragraph with a summary, a comment, or even a recommendation. Now, let's check out some examples here. I have here a particular paragraph which talks about a child who is precocious. Okay, so let's take a look at how the introduction here was started in this definition paragraph. Notice that we began the topic sentence with a formal definition. So the formal definition is from Merriam-Webster's online dictionary. Okay, so we are focusing on the term, of course, that we want to explore in the topic or in the definition paragraph. And we proceed with the body paragraph. And notice that in the definitions that we have for the body paragraph, we are exploring several tips that we have talked about in the previous slide. So we have here, for example, a one that explores some operational definition, okay, of a precocious child. And we get to illustrate that further by providing examples. And then we have the use of synonyms in order for us to provide a more relevant or relatable statement to the term precocious. Okay? And once more, we provide examples. Then, in this particular portion here, we are trying to give a negative definition so that we will be able to distinguish what precocious is not. Okay, and of course, try to elaborate that with examples so that your readers will be able to imagine what you have been talking about regarding a precocious child. Okay, so just make sure that for every strategy of developing the body, you have to supplement a certain example. And finally, we also have the conclusion. Okay, and in this part here, notice that there is a certain recommendation that is being left for the reader to consider in guiding precocious children. Okay, now this particular strategy is one from the suggestions given. Okay, they can give an insight, a final remark, a recommendation. Okay, so that's what you have for this particular definition paragraph that we have. In a section in the e-lesson, we will examine this particular definition paragraph, which explores why lugaw is essential. Okay, there I would like you to check how the particular paragraph was introduced or was started, and then how the body was developed, and finally how the conclusion was wrapped up. Okay, so please take time to read this particular definition paragraph. You may pause this clip so that you may have a closer look. And in the activity part of this particular definition task, you are to conceptualize your blog title. So try to think of a one or two word title for your blog, and that title should be able to sum up what defines you as a person. Please make sure that it's only good for 135 to 150 words. Okay, and then you will have to choose a picture of yourself which should be recently taken, and that will serve as your profile picture for your blog. Now, here is my example. Okay, so do check out this a word that I have for say my blog sample. So it's a visionary. Okay, and in the wrap up section, I'd also like you to examine this definition paragraph I have. Okay, so that you may see, or I may check rather how you are able to comment on the introduction, the body, and the conclusion of the definition paragraph. All right, and I'd like you to think about the following reflection questions. Okay, and record your answers. The first question I have is, why is there a need to come up with informal definitions when there's already a formal definition for terms? What careers can benefit from the fundamentals of writing definitions? And what is your learning takeaway for this particular session? Okay, if you have time, try to review our objectives and see if we're able to attain the following: define definition, determine the relevance of using description in communication, and writing a definition paragraph. Finally, if you have questions, feedback, please share them in our e-lesson. Here are my reference so that you may further examine the sources I have for this particular e-lesson. In the meantime, I hope you have learned much. Thank you and goodbye.